I think League Two is fascinating this season and probably one of the most competitive iterations of the division we've seen in recent seasons. I think what we're seeing in this year is 2/3 of the division is at least decent, and there's definitely some poor sides at the bottom of the league, but certainly 2/3 of the division I think are very competitive, and almost you could throw a blanket over a certain portion of that 2/3. There are a couple of standout sides that I would possibly pick out as being maybe a little bit above, but certainly in the race for automatic promotion and the playoffs, I think that reflects the sort of even nature of the division. We don't have necessarily amazing teams like we had when the financial dominance of the Stockports and the Wrexham engulfed the division. And I think that makes it really exciting from an entertainment value perspective, even if there aren't those kind of super consistent teams. But again, that makes it really exciting. And I think that's reflected in the playoff scramble where there's just 5 points separating 5th from 14th. So yeah, really exciting playoff scramble is ahead of us. This is the League Two podcast here at EFL Debate. So if you like what we do here, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. For now, I'm delighted to be joined by Barnet fan James Harpin from the B Brief. James, thanks for joining us. I suppose it's a reflection of the nature of the division that you're joining me on the playoff scramble chat when you're 14th in the division, which shows how even it is. But it's 2 defeats in 14 for the Bees now, and you've become one of the 4 form sides in the division over that period.
Yeah, no, 100%. We're very difficult to play against. I think because we're so ball dominant, teams struggle to create chances against us. I think we've had one of the least chances against in the league. I mean, we haven't won in 5. I know it looks like we're in good form, but we've drawn 4 of our last 5. And actually, out of all those 5 games, we should have won all 5. But we're just lacking that bit of quality in the final third at the moment. Obviously, we brought in Britta Sombalonga, but then he broke his nose on basically his second game, and he was out. But we just don't quite have the quality in the top end at the moment to convert the chances we're creating. So we've created, I think it was like 48 big chances, which is the most in the league, or the second most in the league. And then we've missed 32 or something, which is the most. So you can see where our problem lies. It's not in defence. It's definitely up front.
I think the challenge with a striker position there, James, is it's got to be someone who facilitates the style. I actually think Lee Unlove does that really well, and it's shown since he signed from the National League South in the second half of last season. And I think even his impact in this campaign since he returned from injury.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's a massive player for us. Like the way he holds the ball up, even the goal we scored against Gillingham the other day, he didn't touch the ball, but he impacted the game. So we went long, and he's taken a centre back out, and we've created an overload and got the ball in the box and scored. But at the same time, I feel like now, like we were saying on our podcast the other day, actually, you sort of need that striker that's going to get you goals. Like last year, obviously, we made that brave decision to sell Nicky Kabamba, who was scoring goals, to bring in Leon Love, who's not got a great goal scoring record. And that works magically for us. But now it almost looks like we probably need to go the other way around. And that's no disrespect to Leon Love, because he's superb. He's exactly what we need as a player. But his goal record's not good enough. And out of those big chances missed, he's a major culprit for it. I can picture it in the top of my head now. In the last 3 or 4 games, he's missed some gilt-edged chances, which would have killed off teams. Like the other day, we were 1-0 up against Gillingham. And I mean, it could have been 3 or 4-0 by the time Bradley Dack scored a free kick from however far out it was.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I suppose if you were still playing the 3-back system, which you started the season with, I think I'd probably make the argument that you've got enough players in those attacking areas to sort of make up for not having one super clinical centre forward. But the way you set up, it's Callum Stead, who there's probably a big reliance in terms of goals. I think Kanu and Glover can chip in, but you maybe don't have that extra player that would be popping up with the big numbers. So I can see from that point of view how, if you could find that elusive centre forward that can do much of what Unlove can do, but maybe be a bit more clinical, I think that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, so that it works as long as our players around Unlove are chipping in with goals and assists, and they're not really. Like Gloves, I love Gloves. He's one of my favourite players in the league, but I think he's only got 1 goal this season. Kanu as well hasn't scored this season. Our top goal scorer at the moment is Adam Senior, who's our centre back, which I think sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And fair play to Senior. He's certainly stepping up for goals this season. I wanted to ask you about Namdi Offerball, because one thing I spotted when I looked at the highlights of the draw at Gillingham, James, was Gillingham's best sort of counter-attacking moment came after like in the 5-minute spell after Namdi Offerball was taken off. And I think he brought in the Bournemouth lad, Ben Winterburn. And now I think Winterburn's got some great reviews, clearly highly rated by Iraola at Bournemouth. The had some Premier League minutes last season, but I suppose I just look at the power and the destructive influence of Offerball, and maybe I'm wondering maybe you missed that when he went off.
Yeah, no, we definitely do miss it when he goes off. I think that's something maybe he's struggling with, and I think he'd probably admit it himself. I think he goes missing towards the end of games. I don't know whether it's a fitness issue. Obviously, he had that time out of football, so that could definitely be a factor in it. But we seem to get like a really good Namdi Offerball in stages of games, but then there's periods where he goes missing. And if you're chasing a game, which we have been for the last 5 games, to try and get a result, and you've got a player struggling for fitness, then you have to make that change. But at the same time, like you said, obviously Ben Winterburn came on the other day. I didn't really think it was a game for him. It was more of a physical game, and we needed to try and get back on the ball. And I don't think that was the right sub at the time. Obviously, we've got Anthony Hartigan on the bench. He's hardly featured this season, which is crazy, given he's probably been our best player for the last 3 years. But he's just not got up to the level of the league. But like I would have thought at that stage of the game, that might have been the sub. But Namdi's a massive player for us. He's got so much quality. He picks the ball up deep. He's, I would say, unpressable. Like teams try and press him, and he rolls men really easy. And off the ball, he's immaculate in his press and the way he gets up and down the pitch.
Off the ball.
There we
go. Absolutely. What do you think about Barnett's playoff chances? Because I feel like you've grown into the season and you've got better as it's gone on. I think switching to the back four was quite a sensible move from Dean Brennan. We've seen that he's a stylistic visionary, and he has a way of playing, and he's quite uncompromising in that sense. But formationally and tactically, he's shown ability to adapt, which I think was really important.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's adapted. Look, we lost our first 3 games trying to play total football, which obviously doesn't work in this league. I think that's pretty obvious. It's hardly any team that tries to dominate the ball fully. We then went really direct. We didn't have sort of our key players in those, like the first 4 games after that 3-game. So
I remember away at Crewe, you were very direct in that one.
Yeah, we changed up the way we played. We played Ollie Hawkins up front. We played direct. And then I think it was the Grimsby home game where we sort of came across this diamond formation where we've got Gloves and Carnu sort of further forward and narrow, and that sort of worked for us. But like it is still working for us because we're playing really well. We just aren't getting the results in the last 5 games. And in terms of the original question about playoffs, if we start converting the chances we create, playoffs is the minimum. Like we could go on a massive run. We've done it in the last 4 years. Every time we've gone on like last year we went 30 games unbeaten. The year before I think we did 20. The year before that we did like a 15 game. So like if we can go on a run like that, there's no reason why we can't finish really high up this league. We've just got to start converting the chances we're getting. And I think that probably leads us on to like the January window. If we can sort of stay within the picture, like within 3-4 points of the playoffs or top 3, and we strengthen, I reckon we'll sign 2 or 3 starting players. And if they hit the ground running, I'm 100% sure we can do things this season.
Would you be in the market for an outside? Do you think Dean Brennan is long term going to go back to the 3 at the back, or do you think he's going to stick with the back 4? Because I wonder whether he's going to think, okay, if I can get some athletic outside centre halves that are going to help me implement my style of play a bit better at this level, then maybe we can make that work.
Well, it's funny because at the moment we're playing 3 centre halves, but Adam Senior is playing right back. But if you look at those 3 centre halves, you've got Danny Collins, Nick Tavares, and Adam Senior. And for me, having watched quite a lot of this league so far, there's not many centre halves in any of those back 3. The problem we've got there is they're all right-footed. So if you want to play the back 3, you've got no outlet on the left-hand side. Obviously, Miles Kenlock started pretty much every game last year for us. Massive player for us. Did his ACL.
Who was the lad you signed, the left-sided player that you signed right at the start of the summer? Because I thought he was... Say again?
Romany Critchlow.
I was at Critchlow. I feel like there might have been someone else, but maybe...
Ryan Galvin. Ryan
Galvin, yeah. I was wondering if because he's not featured at all, has he, Ryan Galvin?
Galvin played a bit, but he, to be honest, just to put it frank, doesn't look up to the level. Critchlow as well, I think, has massively struggled. He's had 2 or 3 good halves here and there, but I mean, the Barrow away game a couple of weeks ago, I've never seen a worse performance from a singular football player in my life. And he hasn't featured since, and I don't think he'll feature again. So that's the problem that Dean's got at the moment in terms of if he wants to go back to a back three, he's got to sign a left-footed centre-half. And then you have the issue that one of Tav, Collins, or Senior won't be playing. And that's crazy because all three of them are perfect for how we want to play.
I think, does Dali Collins drop out?
No.
Okay.
he's club captain now. He's superb. He probably had his best game of the season on Saturday as well. So he's
okay, right, yeah. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Look, I think Tavares is one of the best centre halves in the division as well, and Senior's been in great. So I can see the dilemma for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, James, listen, thanks so much for joining us. Do you think you're going to get top 7 this season?
Oh, is this a yes or no question?
It's maybe a slightly shorter end to the answer.
Yes, if we start converting the chances, playing exactly the same way we're playing. No, if we change the way we're playing and we continue to not take chances, because we're defensively so good, we've just got to finish off the chances. We're defensively amazing, we're tackling really good, but we can't score. If we do that, we'll get top 7.
All right, well, we wish you the best luck and keep up the great work on the debrief.
I appreciate it, mate. Thanks so much.
Top man, James. Cheers. So we will be joined by Charles Lumley from A View from the Findus shortly. But for now, it's Mr. Danny Shepherd from the One Up Front Salford City blog and the Old Dead Tree fanzine as well. That's odd. I don't quite know what's happening there. I don't know if you can fiddle with your settings, and I'll try and I'll do a bit of a monologue and let me know when you're sorted. So for me, what's really stood out to me about this Salford City team is probably the athleticism in the side. I'm a big fan of Dan Udo. I think that was a really underrated signing. He's played a bit in League One, but either found himself in poor, struggling team like Shrewsbury or behind a really good centre forward like Richard Kone. But I think he's got a lot of potential to tap into, and I think we're seeing signs of Salford City doing that. I'm a big fan of Kelly and Mai as well. Really nice link-up play, I thought, in that 2-0 loss at Bromley, where Salford will probably consider themselves a little bit unlucky not to have got something from that. But the link-up play between Kelly and Mai and Callum Cisse sort of caught my eye. But I do feel like Salford can be a little bit vulnerable to crosses into the box. And one thing I'm wondering about and looking forward to discussing with Danny is whether... let me see if he's... Hello?
Any better?
Yes, no? We got there.
Yay. Let's go, Cap.
Is this the best Salford City team you've seen since you've come up to League Two?
Short answer, which I'm not known for, is yes, by absolute far. When they're all fit, absolutely nailed on certainty to be the best team I've seen in the EFL. Yeah, great team, but not scoring goals at the minute, as you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly created your fair share of chances in that 2-0 loss at Bromley last time out. Why do you feel you're maybe struggling in front of goal of late?
I would actually say that probably some of our better chances are falling to people who, I mean, I think Butcher probably had one that went off the post maybe on the weekend. I'm not saying he's a bad finisher, but I don't think that's what he's in the team for. Udo, I love him, but I don't think he doesn't seem to have that ruthless streak. He seems to want to set people up all the time. A facilitator and an assist man rather than an out-and-out goal scorer. I don't know what his previous history is.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
Not a problem.
Train of thought there, Danny. But I'm just wondering, do you think you've kind of missed that in this Salford City team at the moment? People who are selfless and want to set up other players? Because I think you could look at that as a really positive thing, even though you would like a bit more of a killer instinct from Udo, like he was showing at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to talk as two people at the same time. I'm trying to talk as myself and as my body double, Carl Robinson. So, because I just keep it
there, have you?
Yeah, I just keep
like a ventriloquist.
Because to me, I mean, the amount of times I hear him say the word that we're lacking ruthlessness, that's what he's talking about. You know, look at people like Kylian Kouassi, who he brought in. A striker I really, really liked, but the one thing that fella could not do was finish. Look at his goal record with us. I think it's maybe been marginally better with Cambridge. And I think Udo was seen as the yet another cheat code of like, let's just splurge this money, la-di-da-di-da, and it's going to all... And it looked very, very good for the opening few weeks. But one player that I think will get a sneaky amount of goals if we continue to keep him in the team with our injury crisis, we may well do, is George Grant. Jorge, as we always say. We always debate this, yeah.
I call him Jorge Grant, but...
Let's do it, yeah. Let's just me and you keep calling him that. Or as the Lincoln fans call him, I think it's the GOAT. They loved him. They were massive fans of his. So anyway, where I think he would really excel in the chances we're creating, as I may have mentioned to him a few weeks ago, we're creating a lot centrally outside the box. If Callum Cisse, as he's doing about 3 times a game, is hitting them into the stand, yes, he's got a decent connection, but he's not accurate. Grant, for me, is a bit of a free kick master. I think he could do that. So yeah. I think if we can set him up in that, probably said before, Lampardish position, that's where the ball's falling a lot.
So I think on this, Danny, I think you raise a great point. I think Carl likes Cisse further forward because of the pressing side, and he likes Grant deeper because he can get on the ball. It's like when Maurizio Sarri played Kante higher up than Jorginho at Chelsea.
I quote it all the time. It's one of my favourite references. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's a similar principle. However, it does mean that you've got to work a bit harder to get Grant on the ball in those good areas at the latter stages of moves, and that can be a challenge.
Big segue, Gabby, if I could. I think it works right now. The reason why I think we've not scored, as well as not being ruthless up front in the last 3 games, is because other teams have thought, right, they finally, after 12 months, realised that Salford City are always going to choose to play direct, and they're always going to feed it straight from their own half and compete for the second ball. We hear it from the touchline. We see it on the pitch. And the Cambridge game and the last... Is it Cambridge, MK Dons, Bromley? I believe. I'm rubbish at memory, you know this, but that's quite impressive that I remember those 3 in sequence.
Sure.
Yeah. Not scored against either, and we created some decent opportunities against some. But I think all of those...
Can I just sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, go,
I do think those are 3 good defensive teams, like... MK Dons are the biggest budget in the league. Bromley have one of the best defensive records, and Cambridge have the best defensive record. So I suppose it's a tough 3 opponents. If you're facing Harrogate, Newport, and Accrington Stanley, maybe it's a bit different.
I listen. I get that. Yeah, I mean, and I accept that they actually did look particularly organised. I thought Cambridge were the most chess match like tactical, especially on a defensive organisation note that I've seen. I was very, very impressed with those. But I just think what they're saying is, right, we know what you want to do, Carl. You want to compete for the second ball. You want to outnumber us in our half. We're not going to allow that, so we're not going to pressure. So whether those 3 teams are non-pressing teams normally or not, they definitely chose to be non-pressing teams against us, in my opinion, right? Okay. And that has caused us a problem because we don't, despite the players we've got, want to play out from the back because Carl views it as a massive risk. But when you've got a player...
I know, yeah.
He does. I don't know what he's afraid of.
Very ironic. It's just so ironic. Even when you said earlier, Salford City are going to go long, and it just feels very weird to be thinking about that.
I know it does, but
with the Carl Robinson team, it's just
his default has switched from what it was to now. He's got a new imprint. He's like got a new DNA. He's kind of been the gene has been spliced. So yeah. So I think we've basically robbed a living for 12 months with the same tactic, the same shape, and now everybody's saying, right, Carl, play through us. And Carl's like, right, Alex and whoever else he's got on the bench, what we're going to do with this? And the only time I've seen us really try to play out from the back consistently from early in the game throughout was against Bromley. Maybe that wasn't the best choice of game to do it in, but with the team we had out, people like Grant, people like Butcher and the like, you think, well, they can do it. The one person who cannot do it is Aluo. Aluo looks worried when he's on the ball. And as our deepest defender in our kind of shallow V-shapes, I think I normally get it wrong, but it's V-shapes, back 3, he's the first player that's going to get it rolled out to him. And if he's not making the right decision, we can't play out from the back. So sometimes Grant's having to drop deep like Elliot Watt used to do, pick up the ball and carry forward. So it's got so much potential at playing it from the back, but it's like it's never been drilled. It looks really rusty.
Yeah, I did want to talk about the defence.
Please.
You've raised the point about playing out to the back, but I also wondered about defending crosses into the box, because this is something Bromley caused a lot of issues for you. And I just suppose I look at the 11 there. You've got 2 fullbacks by trade in the back 3, and the idea is that helps with supporting behind Longello and Kelly and Mai, because Garbutt especially is a really technical player, and Turton I think is reasonably capable at supporting from behind as well, I'd imagine. But neither of them are great centre halves, and I suppose you're also then putting a lot of heavy lifting on. You're asking Aluwo to do a lot of the heavy lifting when he himself is stepping up to League Two and getting used to a new level. Yeah. Would you rather have maybe an experienced Football League centre half in that position rather than maybe an up and comer like Adi Aluwo?
It's starting to feel a little bit like that way. I think because Aluwo, in my opinion, and a few other people that I've talked to, Salford fans, thought Aluwo had a dreadful pre-season. It's not always the best time to judge a player who's playing at. He wasn't playing at a new level. He was playing against bloody Warrington, Rylands and stuff. See, and I thought if he's looking dodgy against these in York City, then this is a bit of a problem. But I think what it is, and you can see it not just up set pieces, is Garbutt seems to be targeted more on the left from like aerial switches of play because he's got no protection in front of him. Whereas on the right-hand side, Turton might not be the best in the air, but he's got Hadji Minogue up his sleeve. Hadji Minogue can dominate any aerial battle in this division, bar none. So, and when you do see us in a set piece, I mean, there's kind of Butcher isn't small. Cisse is not small. Butcher was at fault for one of our recent goals off a set piece, maybe off a throw-in, I think it was. I can't remember if it was Bromley or whatever. I'm disgusted with Butcher. I think he's a really poor player, unless something's just gone wrong there. I'm really not happy with his performance, but we just don't have enough people to bring in now. I think Woodburn is out long-term. Osterfield is not a viable option in League Two. Unless Cheltenham come calling like they did for Adelaide, and maybe desperation might do that. So we've got a decent amount of size, but I think we lack power and strength in our own box, and we don't look dangerous in the opposition box from scoring them either, really. So I agree, we lack the traditional aspect of defensive power that we would probably like a bit more of, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think Salford City are going to make the top 7?
I always duck it, and I don't. I'm not a coward, but I just the levers. Carl is just stretching for the levers of control with his team, and I know he's got injuries. I've heard, according to him, he says he's got 11. The only important injuries that I think he's got really are Osama Ashley, who any team would miss in the League One or League Two, and Michael Rose. I think Michael Rose, if you substitute Aluwo for him, you're probably still not going to get a lot of defensive power. But that lad he can pass, he can spray it about. So they are two important
injuries. You put those
injuries.
two in, and it looks very different. And then Minogue in for Longello, and it looks very different. Yeah, it looks very different.
It does. What do I think about where we're going to be? As I said, I always think if Carl doesn't know, Carl will keep backing his players and saying he's backing his players in the post-match, but they're not finishing, and we dominate in the areas of the game that don't really matter, which are the kind of the middle third. It's, we're a bit shaky in our own box. That's not Matt Young's fault. I don't think he's done really anything wrong. He's been fine. Playing at the back will suit him down to the ground when we finally bite the bullet and do it. I think this team, when they're all fit, is a top 3 job. And I've never said that. I'd need to, but it feels like Osama Ashley is extremely injury prone. Quite a few of the others kind of are in and out too. So if we lose really important players, people like Hadji Minogue is essential to us. Kelly and Mai is essential to us. And there's even talk of a recall for Matt Young going back to Sunderland if they ship one of their goalies out in the January window. So Matt Young, and if we have to roll the dice for a keeper in January. project
Do
aborted.
you know what I would say? And I can kind of understand why you've maybe ducked the question, because I think the best case scenario and the worst case scenario for Salford are a long way away. So if Salford made a comfortable top three because Woodburn, Ashley, Rose all got fit again, Minoga came back in, and then you made good additions in January, especially in attacking areas, wouldn't surprise me at all if you got to 80 plus points.
Right,
on the other hand, Young gets recalled. Those players I mentioned continue to struggle with injury. You maybe don't sign the right attacking players. Wouldn't surprise me at all if you ended up on 65 points and finished 10th. So there's a big sort of disparity between best case scenario and worst.
Floor and ceiling, Gab, like you say, totally right. Absolutely couldn't say it better. I'll just say one last thing, and this is just about it's an article I'm planning to write for the blog, and it's spoiler alert that as Carl Robinson lost the eye for a striker. Like Dan Udoh, yes, fine in principle. I like the direction we're going in, a more complete, rounded player who's not just a target man like Matt Smith. But Jay Bird, do me a favour. Siri, not Stockton. I'm trying to think who else there's been. It's just, where is this success up front? I mean, Adelaide wasn't a striker. He got a few goals, but he was repellent to the rest of League Two until Cheltenham got desperate. You know,
but I would argue the Udoh signing suggests progress, because you're right. Stockton was an awful signing, and his attitude is absolutely abysmal sometimes. Whereas I think at least with Dan Udoh, you know that you're going to get a certain standard of work ethic from him. You know that he can facilitate the rest of the team, even if he's not scoring goals, and that's probably what I would expect to be the case with Dan Udoh for the rest of the season. I think Steve Cottrell, before he caught fire for Shrewsbury and had one good season where he scored double figures, Steve Cottrell was convinced to keep him the extra year because of his work ethic. So I think that's something he's always had about him. So I'm putting my faith in Dan Udoh, I think.
I have it. I'm just not seeing it in the last few games. Not that he's done anything wrong. I just want him to dominate a bit more and to prove how good he is beyond this level. Not quite seeing that in the last month. That's all.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, listen, thanks so much for your insight, Danny, and to look forward to catching up later in the season.
All the best, Gab.
Cheers, mate. So we will be joined by Tom from the ME7 podcast of Grimsby, but for now, we're joined by Charles Lumley of the View from the Findus podcast. Lovely to have you back, Charles. Thanks so much for joining us. Grimsby have found themselves on the wrong side of fine margins, I guess, lately.
Thank you for having me back. I've been listening to your previous callers with interest, because it feels like a very close league where there doesn't seem to be a runaway pack at the moment, does there?
Agreed.
So I think there is definitely a case to say that our position is falsely lower than it should be. So I think we are very high in the XG charts, so we're creating lots of chances. We've gone through a couple of games where defensive and goalkeeping errors have cost us dear recently. But I'm very happy with where we are, and I think, like I say, I think we're in a better position as a club than perhaps our points total suggests.
Absolutely. One thing I'm really interested in, Charles, is I know your manager, Dave Artell, is very process driven. And if you talk to him after a match, often how he responds to it is based on how his team has played rather than the outcome of the match. So I spoke to him after Walsall and said something jokey about how good the start had been, about the result. And he literally, his first words were, that's the worst we've played so far this season. But he also does it when you've drawn or lost, having played really well and dominated the game. And I think due to the way football is and how football fans sort of their relationship with football, sometimes that's not always taken in the way that it maybe should be, because some fans, maybe have more of an outcome-driven mindset than the mindset that the manager has to. So I'm wondering how you feel about, I guess, how David has spoken about recent performances and how it's been taken. And do you agree that you've been the better team in most of the recent games?
It's a really interesting perspective, actually. So as a supporter, I don't really care if we play badly and win.
Sure.
If I'm going to travel across the country to watch Grimsby, I'd much rather play badly and win than play really well and lose. So, but I think it points to the fact under the new owners and under David Artell, we've got a long-term vision as a football club, which is something we lacked during previous seasons before the ownership change. So it's quite a reactive culture and not a particularly successful culture. So I think David Artell is doing tremendously well at Grimsby, but I also think he's quite fortunate to have working for the people who own and run the football club, who have a long-term vision, which aligns with David's philosophies as well, I'm sure. That he maybe gets. He's slightly fortunate in that perspective, that I think he talks about just improving. He talks about improving as every transfer window, which I think he can almost. I think it's pretty much fact that he's done that. When he came over, we were staring down relegation into the non-league abyss again, and he inherited an absolute shower from Paul Hurst. So he's proven it at Crewe as well, that he knows how to get a team out of this league in the correct direction, as in promoted. And I think most Grimsby fans are very happy with where we are. I can't remember what the question was, but I hope that was helpful.
No, it's really interesting. I agree with you. I think they're really lucky to have one another, actually, Jason Stockwood and David Artell. And I think I couldn't think of a better sort of partnership, if you like, from that point of view. Although I think I think Stockwood's gone more into politics now, hasn't he? So it's Andrew Pettit.
That's correct.
But you've been creating tons of chances recently, and that's one thing that's always impressed me about Grimsby Town. Talk to me about the impact of your wide players like Dara Burns, Jason Span-Thorson, who's just come back from injury, and Charles Vernham.
Yeah, well, Charles Vernham, I think, has probably been the standout this season. So during the summer, he was heavily linked with a move away. I think he had a medical at Swindon that transfer didn't happen. If I'm being brutally honest, I wouldn't have been overly concerned if he'd gone to Swindon, because his injury track record had not been great at many of his previous clubs, including our own. But this season he's been fantastic. His minutes are being managed. He tends not to play 90 minutes very often. I think he did actually play 90 minutes on Saturday against Swindon, but that's quite rare. Often he is one of the first people to be substituted off. So he's been the standout one in terms of chances created, goals scored. I mean, he's one of those players who sort of has a trademark move, which is cutting in and going for the top corner. And everyone seems to know what he's about to do, but it's, even though he's about to do it, people don't pick up on it. And if he doesn't do it, he can go. He's pretty both-footed, so he can go the other way and whip in crosses like he did, like he's been doing all season. So I think he's been the standout. Dara Burns has been fantastic. Span-Thorson we've not seen too much of. He's recovering from an injury, so he's been sort of eased back in. But yeah, it's an area we're actually pretty well stocked in, because we've got a couple of other sort of attacking options
as well.
Yeah, so he comes on and runs around, and it looks tricky and hard to deal with. But we've got people perhaps with a bit more finesse, like we've got Gilson, and who we've barely seen.
Yes, he came through the La Masia Academy as well.
Yeah, that's right. He had a look at that and thought, no, I'd rather live in Cleethorpes. And
obviously,
yeah. No, but we've not seen a lot of him, and Soon-Suk Bell, Jude Soon-Suk Bell, has an incredibly rich pedigree as a youth team player. He's not. I think it's fair to say, in the fits and starts he's played for Grimsby, he's missed a couple of chances, he's been knocked off the ball, but he looks to have something. And he's recently been capped by Thailand and scored 2 the other week in one of their international games. So that will hopefully get doing the world of good. So we've out wide in attack, we seem to have tons of options.
Certainly have. We mentioned Span-Thorson as a signing from January, and I suppose it leads me on to the recruitment in the Nordic market, because you've also signed Geza Turley, and he initially, second half of last season, took him a while to get to sharpness, fitness, for all sorts of reasons, mainly McEachran being brilliant at the base of midfield. But one thing that interested me from the game at Swindon was that Turry did start, and McEachran, I suppose we saw McEachran play slightly more advanced than we're maybe used to. I'm wondering if that's something we're going to see more of.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we signed Turry, I think a lot of people saw him as the McEachran replacement because we didn't think we'd be able to hang on to McEachran for very long. Because since he's come to Grimsby, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's still quite young, and he looks a really useful asset for a League Two team. So I thought he was the long-term replacement. If we can fit them both in, fantastic. Turry is a different player to McEachran, and I think a lot of people have noticed that. He plays the game a bit slower than some of the players around him, which is not a criticism. It's he'll put his foot on the ball and take time, whereas sometimes the players around him, like Kieran Green, is a bit more high octane, let's say.
Sure.
So I think I think Artel and the rest of the staff have done a good job with Turry. So he came over from the Faroe Isles. Huge change, only a youngish chap as well. So he was eased in last season, and he seems to be growing. And obviously he's now playing for the Faroe Islands and scored for them during the international break as well. But he was up against Croatia, playing against Modric in centre mid. So all these things are only looking good for him. Learning from people like Modric,
one of the greatest midfielders of all time, and Luka Modric.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about central defence, Charles, because one thing that I'm sort of interested in, I suppose, is obviously going forward, you've been phenomenal this season in terms of carving teams open, and you can attack teams from all sorts of angles, and you could have a really long list of players that have looked really dangerous this season. But I suppose one thing I'm curious about is you've probably conceded. The ratio of goals you've conceded is probably higher than that of chances you've allowed. And on the one hand, so I suppose I'm looking at sort of in individual defensive moments, have you got as much defensive strength and resolve as we would maybe like? I'm looking at central defence, and you see Tyrrell Warren there and Cam McJanet, and McJanet's a good centre-half, but I'm just wondering whether that experienced, dominant centre-half that's good on the ball, doesn't have to be particularly quick, but can sort of really defend and dominate the penalty area. I don't know if I see that kind of centre-half at Grimsby. Maybe that can be Sam Lavelle coming back from injury. I'm not sure on the timescale.
That's what I was about to say about Lavelle. So I think Lavelle is that sort of experienced head who maybe does some of the more dirty work that centre-backs need to do. He's not currently fit. When he's played, he's looked fine, but he's not really been tested. He's played against 9 men and 10 men, I think, from memory. So he's played in sort of comfortable games. But I think he is that person. Doug Tharm, who's also currently injured, he's a bit more of a physical presence, I would say. Warren came to Grimsby as a right back, but plays centre back and started the season absolutely fantastically. But I think it would be fair to say he's not maintained that form. Rodgers, who plays right back, came to Grimsby as a centre back. So currently we have, in my mind, we have a right back playing centre back and a centre back playing right back. McJanet, I think, is probably the best of those three, the best of those people I've mentioned. But I think this is a very personal thing for me. I think we probably need a better right back. And if there was Tharm and Lavelle fit, I wondered if Warren may have been rotated out by now.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Wanted to ask you also, Charles, do you think you're going to make the... I still think you've got a great chance of pushing for the top 3. Would you put yourselves more in the playoff bracket? Where do you see Grimsby finishing?
I'm certain we'll finish in the playoffs. I'll be a lot more bold than your previous guess. Yes, Grimsby will finish in the playoffs.
Are we saying playoffs at least? Or
playoffs at least, yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're good enough to finish in the top 3. There's no good teams in this league. I watched us play Swindon, who would talk their rubbish. So that might have been an off day for Swindon, but there's nobody to fear in this division. Like I think you've alluded to already. There's no Wrexham or big money bags spending their way out. Yeah, and I don't think there is this year. So, you know, it feels an open division, and I think we have strength in depth, and I think there's a lot of things going right at our football club. So, yeah, I'm very confident, which doesn't happen often. So we'll see.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks a lot, Charles. Appreciate you joining us from the.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So we will be joined shortly by Tom Wagstaff from Notts County Talk and Ryan from Up the U's. But my next guest is Tom Jasper from the ME7 podcast. Good evening, Tom. Thanks so much for joining us.
Ian, thanks for having me.
Gillingham had an amazing start to the season. The first couple of months were brilliant. And obviously everyone here at EFL Debate sends our best wishes to Gareth Ainsworth as he continues to recover from some heart issues, and hope that he wishes him health and happiness first and foremost. I'm sure he will, because he's a real battler, isn't he? But I suppose, do you think it's been tough, that, and how that exit initially has sort of impacted the team, and then even him coming back, but somewhat not half-heartedly in spirit, but there are certain things that he hasn't been able to do because of certain risks, I suppose. Has that brought challenges to the group, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think you copy and pasted that first sentence from last season and the one before that. I think it had more of an impact than we thought. Obviously, it was still very much, you know, he works closely with Richard Dobson, has done for many years. And he has had an impact. He still has, you know, a say in team selection and all of that sort of stuff. But I don't think we were prepared for the impact that his absence has had. And obviously our form, you know, without Ainsworth speaks for itself. 1 win in 8 in the league. And it seems, you know, when we beat Bristol Rovers recently with Ainsworth back in the stands, it kind of felt like it was, you know, back to normal. But the indifference has come from the, again, carbon copy of last season and the one before that. We start really well, then we tail off in November, October time, and then the rest of the season's really up for grabs. You know, I can't believe we're still 7th somehow. It shows, as Charles was saying there, the complexity of the league, really, isn't it? Just to sort of see that we're still in 7th place, hanging on for a playoff place. So yeah, Gareth's absence has been big, and I think we'll feel it once he's back on the touchline for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously wishing him his health first and foremost. I did want to ask you though, in terms of selection, Tom, playing Johnny Williams and Bradley Dack simultaneously, I just don't think it works. I don't think, for a low possession based side where the ball's going to change hands a lot, I don't think that means that you're going to need players who are 100% on it against the ball. Either that, or they need to, you know, you build it around one individual player. But having them simultaneously, I've seen some of the bits and pieces from your game against Barnet, and I don't think Johnny Williams was on it against the ball. And I'm not particularly blaming him, because he's towards the end of his career, you know, he's not like, it's not like having Nelson Company in the starting 11, but yeah, that Dack and Johnny Williams simultaneously just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and I think consistency in selection is going to be the big talking point, I think, recently. If you look at our midfield, we've had to drop Robbie McKenzie back into defence a lot of the time. And with Little being out for he's not started a game since the middle of September. So them two being out of the midfield has caused a bit of a gap. And when we played Salford at home, they cut through us every single time that they could. Ethan Coleman does a good job in there. He's improved, I think, since he came back from injury. But ultimately, having no Little or McKenzie in the midfield, and having, you know, Dack and Williams, who on their day are quite similar kind of players, generally would play normally in the 10 role behind a striker or two. So it's been evident, really, the gaps in the midfield caused by them. And I like Williams as himself, but I don't think he's got that defensively minded nature, and also he can't get around the pitch like maybe McKenzie or Little can. So you're right there.
Yeah. Also wanted to ask you about, with Robbie McKenzie, he's always been a versatile defender, can play base and midfield where he's actually excelled in recent times. He can play as a fullback or as a centre half, but you never really think of Robbie McKenzie as like a super dominant centre half. And then I suppose at that point you're asking Sam Gale to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I actually wondered if Sam was possibly at fault for the goal that Barnett scored at the weekend, possibly misjudging a header. And that's not me having a go at the lad, because I think Sam Gale's done remarkably well to break into the team and do everything he has, and I think that has to be respected. But again, I come back to the spine of this team. A Gareth Ainsworth team, to be at its best, it's got to have a super tenacious physical midfield. It's got to have centre halves that constantly win duels. I just don't know if the personnel is quite there at the moment, and that's what worries me about Gillingham.
Yeah, I think if you look at the centre halves as well, like we can focus on different parts of the pitch, but Andy Smith's on his day is very good, but has got a mistake in him, and Shadowki's got a few in him. He's a bit of a flight risk. Has been evident by the fact that McKenzie's played there over Ogie, which you'd think Ogie's more of a defensive-minded player anyway. So Sam Gale, a lot is on him in terms of whether it's part of a 4 or a 5 at the back. I think we generally tend to play better when we have a 3-5-2, but it does put the emphasis on the wing backs who aren't overly attacking minded a lot of the time. But yeah, I think also without Conor Masterson too, like he's not featured since the second game of the season. We have missed him, his experience in there and his dominance, if you like. So we've not found that settled formula yet in the defence, and I guess that's the same all over the pitch. Up front too. I don't know whether you're going to mention that, but we've been quite inconsistent with our striking partnerships this season, and I just think we've not nailed that down yet. And for me, the best teams in this league come from a consistency basis where they can play the same formation and same personnel there or there, week in, week out.
Do you think Gillingham are going to make the top 7?
No,
I don't either.
I want to be flattered by our start, and obviously we have tailed off, and somehow, as I said, we still find ourselves in the top 7. But I just think the squad's too big, the squad's too unsettled. We need Gareth wants a smaller team to work with. We've got too many players there that on their day aren't cutting it. And
so here's the thing. I would, if you don't mind me cutting you off a bit there, Tom. I think there is a little bit of so you always want to impress the new manager at the back end of the season, because it's like, it's the new guy, he's got signed a 2-3-year contract, so we've got to impress him. So you're always going to show your best version of yourselves for the new manager. And I think that because Ainsworth's such a good motivator, it can create this sense of momentum, and it can create this sort of feel-good factor of everything's fine. But then what you have with this is largely the group of players that you had last season that were awful in the middle part of the season under Mark Bonner, at times under John Coleman. You remember games like the 3-0 at home loss to Bromley. These are largely the same players, and I don't think the club was ruthless enough in the summer, and I do wonder if now some of the management challenges that are coming up, I think that's going to exacerbate some of those issues. I know that might seem like quite a pessimistic take, because a lot of my questions have been quite negative, but considering you are in the top 7 technically, but I think there's going to need to be a big rebuild in terms of personnel.
I think it's bang on. Plus, there are 16 players out of contract to the end of the season. And some of those are including the likes of Dak and Williams and Nevitt and Aaron Rowe, players that haven't been consistent enough for us in the last couple of years. So I think, absolutely, this summer could be where Gareth, and he did come in and say, it's a 2-year plan here. I'm not going to overpromise and under-deliver this season. I'm going to say, listen, 2-year plan. I've got players who want to move on. The squad's too big still. He would admit that himself. He can't pay players up and move them on because they're on too big a salary. So this summer is going to be the transition, I think, for me, and we'll see a very different Gills team next season, hopefully.
Just quickly, actually, who's on recruitment in terms of the summer? Is Hassan Thaler still there?
He is, and a lot of flack has been aimed towards recruitment in the summer, and I don't know whether you saw, but Brad Gallinson come out with Joe Comper, the chief exec, and said we got things wrong, and we have basically owned up to our mistakes.
That's one thing that I will Sorry, that's one thing I will always give credit to the Gallantons. They are always happy to put their hands up and speak.
There's transparency there. I think they know that they've got things wrong. They've tried to play a certain way, tried to manage a certain way, and it hasn't worked out. So they need to reset, but they need players off the books to do that first. The squad's still too big. Gareth always said, I work with a small squad at Wickham. I got the best out of my players. I know what I want from them. I reckon improve on last season this time around, and then we'll see where we are for next season. It sounds a bit like I've written it off already. I haven't, but I kind of have as well. We'll see where next season brings us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, possibly a big rebuild ahead for Gillingham. Tom, thanks so much for talking to us, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
Thank you.
So we will be joined shortly by Tom Wagstaff from Notts County Talk, but my next guest is Ryan from Up the U's of Colchester United. Ryan, thanks so much for talking to us. It's really odd because I've just had a conversation with a Gillingham fan, and the mood is quite pessimistic, even though on paper they are actually 7th. And I imagine I'm going to have actually quite a positive conversation with you, even though Colchester are actually in the bottom half. So it's funny that I suppose that just summarises how mad League Two is.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Looking at the table, Colchester win the next 3 games and results go our way, we're top. Colchester lose our next 3 games and results go against us, and we're 23rd. So it's. I'll be honest. I think you go back the past few years. This is League Two. It's what it's like. Yeah. It's only really towards the end when we get to sort of the February, March time where people can sit there and go, right, this team are going to go up, this team are probably going to go down. But yeah, spirits at the moment in the north of Essex are high.
Oh, sorry, one moment. Thank you. Co-working book kitchen. Right, okay. Should be okay. Right. I did want, every time I'm going to get you on, Ryan, I am going to ask you about Micah and Bick, because he's looking like a really impressive player. We've known that he would bring some raw qualities, that pace and that strength, but he's got a really good finish on him as well.
I think every single game, as soon as that final whistle goes, every single Colchester United fan is filled with happiness and also that fear, because the game finishes and you go, oh my, what another fantastic performance. But we're only one injury away from a Charlton player to him potentially being recalled, and then every Col-U fan's sad. It's the cliche, don't fall in love with a lone player, but yeah, the lad is an absolute diamond. Gets his professional debut for England on Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon sitting on the bench for Colchester as we play Notts County. It's Walsall. It's just goes to show what he's like. He's a young lad that just wants to play football, and when he plays football, my God, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Him, Samson Tavide, Kirill Lisby as well. Is it Kirill or Kyrese?
We've got Kyrese.
Kyrese, thank you, Kyrese Lisby. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you've got so many, and Harry Anderson even scoring a lovely sort of lobbed Keller Roos, didn't he, on Saturday? So you've got players who are looking pretty dangerous at the moment.
We've got players that you look at Harry Anderson last season. Harry Anderson probably wasn't up there as one of our better players. Probably he may even admit himself probably weren't his best season last season. Danny and Nicky know him. They know exactly what they can get from him. They know exactly how to get the best out of him. And at the moment, they're getting the best out of him. Like you say, goal against Notts County, ball falls to him. His confidence and his spirits are so high. He looked at that and thought, I'm having this. And yeah, perfect curl, straight rounds. You look at the hat-trick he scored a few weeks ago, every single goal hit with conviction. And he has really, I mean, you look at the player he's keeping out of that left mid position, Owara Edwards. Last season, Owara Edwards was our Kyrese Lisby this season.
Yeah.
And Harry Anderson's keeping him out of the position. But it then means that what a fantastic player we've got. That when we take Anderson off, you bring on you bring on Awara Edwards.
Absolutely, which is a lovely dilemma to have. Do you know, I'm going to bring in Thomas Wagstaff from Notts County Talk. If it's not rubbing it in too much, Tom, we'll come on to Notts County in a moment. But I'd love to get your thoughts on Colchester United from an opposition perspective. Did you look at them and see a potential playoff or promotion challenger?
Saw relegation candidates, very lucky, 3 shots. No, they just did a number on us. I mean, no team has beaten us at Mead Lane since Salford in the first home game. And someone I sit with that's on the channel with us basically said we looked like we were dominating the game. We had so much possession, but they let us have the possession. They let us pass it around. Every cross that came in the box was cleared away, and they hit us on the break. So, yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I had them I predicted 5th at the start of the season. I was a bit disappointed with Colchester's start, but loads of Notts fans before the game, despite our home form, said they would have taken a draw on Saturday.
Certainly would. Well, listen, Ryan, do you think you're going to make the top 7?
No.
Okay.
Top 3.
Oh,
we're going to go up. No, I think last season, obviously towards the end of last season, we had the same talk, and I used the analogy that we've come into the playoff party, we've took our coat, we've left it on a chair, and so we'll be back for that next season. I think this year we're going to go in, we're going to get our coat, and we're going to go next door. The way we're playing at the moment, I don't think what's interesting is Bromley came to us, and Bromley done a number on us, and then the week later we played Walsall. And if I'm honest, we just copied what Bromley did. We've done sort of a 5-back.
It was like a Walsall tend to struggle when they're the team that's got the ball. So that to them, and pretty much that's Notts County as well. It
was exactly what Tom says. Walsall wanted the ball, have it, no problem. But as soon as that cross comes in, we were clearing it and we were hitting you on the counter, and they just couldn't deal with it. And that's what Bromley did to us, and that's what we've done in back-to-back games. But no. If I was to come on here now and say, no, I don't think we're going to get playoffs, then I'm dreaming. The way we're playing at the moment, Saturday's going to be a big test. We've got Cheltenham. They're sort of finding their feet a little bit. But I think if we can get another win and just keep going and going, Christmas is a horrible period for everyone. Lots of games, Boxing Day is just the biggest drama in the world. So get through Christmas and still be sort of the 3 to 4 points away from playoffs or from the top, then there's no reason why we don't this year finally get out of this league.
Fighting talk there from Ryan from Up the U's. Listen, thanks for joining us, Ryan. Look forward to catching up later in the season.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Cheers. So Thomas, great to have you on from Notts County Talk. Just wondering, there's been a lot of debate about the goalkeeping department after the 3-1 loss to Colchester. Someone like James Belshaw, who had a great game for Harrogate against you the other week. Is that an area that you'd like to look at in January?
I'd like to look at it today if we can. I mean, James Belshaw gets a big mention because he's a Notts fan. But I honestly don't think we can go another game with the current goalkeeper situation. I've heard we've got might be Jamie Jones, who was in goal for Salford a few times last year on trial. I hope so, because Ryan mentioned Christmas being an awful period. For us, it's horrendous. I mean, we play Grimsby, Walsall, away to Chesterfield, away to MK Dons in December. Not to mention go to Bristol Rovers this Saturday. And I know they're losing game after game, and that can't continue. It's still a tough game. I think already, and I never like to, bash individual players too much, but let's say the whole goalkeeping department that was built by the club and Roberto Gagliardi has probably already this season cost us 6 points, maybe a bit more. Going into December with those teams, I mean, the team talk's already done for most of the opposition. Put it in the box, wait for it to be either punched out or dropped, and just pounce on it. Colchester did that at the weekend, nearly scored from it. Yeah, we need to address it badly. And again, if Notts offered me a contract to play in League Two, I'd take it. I'd definitely take it. So there's no blame on Keller Roos. He's just doing a job. But the people that put him there have to be looked at. And the sort of the player to challenge him is a goalkeeper that was at Forest's Youth Academy. I don't see sort of the vision of the goalkeeping department, and it's costing us massively.
Yeah, do you with issues like this and appointing somebody like Gagliardi who was involved with Leyton Orient under Bacchetti, does that kind of raise question marks over the ownership and the decision making of the club, or do you have or you want to have a lot of faith in the Reitz brothers and how they're running things?
You've got to have faith in them. I mean, they saved us when we went down to the National League, and they the first season, COVID ended the season, we almost went back up. You know, we had playoffs every season until we eventually went up in the playoffs. They brought us in one of the best managers I've ever had in Luke Williams. They've overseen the highest points tally, the longest unbeaten run, the most goals scored by a striker in Langstaff. The players they brought through. Ian Birchnell went on to Forest Green. Luke Williams went on to Swansea. You know, Langstaff at Millwall. I can't really fault them at all. But this summer felt really strange, and what they built was really questionable. Gagliardi was before the summer, but it just didn't really fit with anything we've had before. It doesn't make me doubt them. I think they've got a lot of favour in the bank with me, definitely, and with a lot of Notts fans. They've done a lot for us, but it was concerning, and I want to see how they try to turn that around. We've got Richard Montague back from Swansea. Let's see how that works out.
Move, isn't it? Yeah,
very, very good for us. Yeah, that's a positive. And things. I mean, what, we're 5th in the league, so
yeah, of course,
got to have perspective. At the start of the season, I'd have ripped your hand off for 5th in the league going into December.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm actually quite. I don't always know what to make, how critical to be, because I often feel, Thomas, that on the one hand, I don't think the Reitz brothers are perfect. I don't think they've got everything right. But on the other hand, I feel like at bigger clubs, issues kind of flare up more easily, where at smaller clubs, people might ask fewer questions, perhaps, and so it can be difficult to know quite where the middle ground lies.
Yeah. They keep things very close to their chest. You don't hear anything. So signings come in and you don't hear a whisper. Things are done, very quietly off the pitch. They're doing wonders for us. They've built the Nest, which is sort of bringing in loads of money. There's like something that's from the start of the season to Christmas. There was something like 50 events planned in that's just churning money. We have the away fans. I think Malmo are playing Forest. If it's at Forest, I don't really check Forest. I don't really have any interest in them. But if it's there, then the Malmo fans will be in the Nest bringing us money. So yeah, but I agree, they're not perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if you like the idea of Notts County profiting from Nottingham Forest playing in Europe.
Love it, love it. Yeah, love it. Great.
So one positive of the season, I think, has to be the form of your strikers. And in Alassane Jatta and Matthew Dennis, you've got two really potent strikers, and they don't always play simultaneously, which really adds to the competition.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Dennis at the start. Obviously, Jatta was sent off in the first leg of the playoffs against Wimbledon,
sure.
And that carried over for 5 games. So Dennis comes in. My Traore, who is not even mentioned anymore, means that Dennis was the sole striker, and I think he scored five consecutive games, 6 goals in 5 or something crazy like that. And then Jatta comes back, and you think, well, what's Patterson going to do here? And he manages them quite well, because Dennis was running on empty. I mean, he had to play every single minute. And you look at one of the games, Barrow, we went down to 10 men for the last 20, 30 minutes, and he was just everywhere. And he uses the opportunity to bring Jatta in, and Jatta had something to prove. Comes back in, he's been brilliant. I think with the form of the players behind him, Tyrese Hall on loan from Spurs, Tommy Openda, Luca up until when he got injured, meant we never really had to go to a 2 up top. When they have, it's been late on in a game, trying to get an equaliser or a winner, or trying to add some fresh legs up there to hold the ball up. But yeah, they've been good. They've been impressive. We just need a little bit more consistency. There's a call from a lot of Notts fans, because my Traore is so out of favour, to bring in maybe one more striker from somewhere. But I don't know who would be sort of happy to come in behind those 2 strikers, because you're going to get very little playing time, seemingly.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think Notts County are going to make the top 7?
After the Cheltenham game, and I saw your tweet about Notts after the Cheltenham game, I would have said 100%. The first half, we blew them away. And let's not forget, they were in great form from when Cottrell took over.
Sure.
Second half, we felt the lack of Jody Jones and Matty Palmer through injury. And you think, right, Harrogate at home, no disrespect. The home form's fantastic since Salford. Let's go and get the win. And they're frustrated. And you think, okay, well, it's 4 points from 2 games. People say, win your home, draw away.
4 points if they're the other way round.
Exactly. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're 1 point from 2 home games. And we've lost to Colchester and drawn to Harrogate. So we're so inconsistent. I haven't even worked us out yet. And I've been to every game so far. So I don't know. I think we will. I don't think we're going to trouble top 3, despite us being 2 points off. I just can't see that. Too many young players that are fantastic, but if they don't do something, i.e. Tyrese Hall, if he doesn't score or assist, don't know what we necessarily get from him in a game. Okay. But yeah, top 7, I'd like to hope.
Well, fingers crossed. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, and keep up the great work on Notts County Talk.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cheers. So my final guest of the evening is Jack Kershaw from Fleetwood Town. Jack, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us. What are you making of Fleetwood's season so far?
I think we're slowly improving. I think the first half of the season, well, obviously we're in the first half of the season, but the first few games, I just felt like we didn't really have a complete 90-minute performance. I think probably our only one before the last few weeks has probably been Barnet, the first game of the season. Sure. I think other than that, it's not really been as dominant, and we're a bit. One week, some fans had questioned Pete Wild, and the other week when we win, we're all singing his name. But I think we're slowly getting things more consistent now. I think it's 10 unbeaten at home in all competitions, which is key to success. Obviously, Pete Wild's always said that, and I think his form with Barrow and Halifax, it really does show. And it looks like our away form and home form from last season is completely swapped now. We're making Harvey more of a fortress, and then obviously not picking many points up away. But I think also the key is that at home we're not just winning 1-0, because I think we had decent home form under Scott Brown. But then we were winning 1-0 there. But I think now that we really have the power to go and outscore teams and bring it to him, and I think our most complete performance was last Saturday against Shrewsbury, which was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. One player that is really, I like about this team that you've got threats from all areas, because now you're playing attacking wing-backs on both sides. Whereas previously you'd play, I think Zach Medley played left wing back away at Notts County in September when Game was out. And I think having attacking wing backs is really important, because it doesn't really work with defensive wing backs, I don't think. But then you've got Mark Helm, who's a very attack-minded player, Matty Virtue as well, who can bit of an 8, and then 2 up top as well. So that's 6 players who can carry a threat, which I think makes you a hard team to defend against.
Yeah, definitely. Lewis McCann, didn't really know much about him when he came. I think in his first interview, he was saying that he's a winger. And he's, I think, said that his key attribute is his strength, which for me, I don't really want that in a winger. But then it is proven that I think he did play up front for Dunfermline, and he's never played wing back in his life. But I actually think that he's played really well defensively, which obviously attacking wing backs, you can have them being suspect defensively. But
sure.
Pete Wild definitely praised that on Saturday, and obviously he had a bit of fortune with his goal. But yeah, I think he settled in nicely at left wing back, and also Ethan Ennis at right wing back. I think he's been very good too. And
he looks dangerous, Ennis,
yeah, definitely. I think every time that he gets the ball, whether it's on the halfway line, I always want to drive forward and put some dangerous crosses into the box. So sometimes we're a bit too fast paced, but then I think it was in the FA Cup against Barnet, it was a fast paced ball, but then that set Medley at the far post. So it shows, with 2 attacking wing backs with now McCann there, that it can be dangerous. And I think Matty Virtue had the best season so far, but then obviously against Shrewsbury gets a goal and assist, and before that against Winding got an assist. Hopefully his form can improve. And yeah, if you look at our striker options now, we've got Ronan Coughlin back. It does look really good, because I think I've been one where Ched Evans has come off the bench, impacted the game a lot, and then I didn't really want him to start because he hadn't got the legs, and I think he had a surgery on his neck. So when the ball's played up direct, he doesn't jump. He wants to nudge the centre half and then sort of bring it down on his chest or play to feet. But against Swindon and Shrewsbury, he's been good for the 90 minutes. So yeah, I just hope that we can keep scoring, because obviously, that you say, that we got threats from all area, and even James Polton and Harrison Holgate have had two stunning goals on the left foot, and they're both centre halves. But I think also, that I wouldn't like to see us having a good attacking players in the squad, and then just being high next year and it not actually coming into practice. But I think what Pete Wild said, that we're up there for XG, and it proves when we're scoring 2 or 3 pass sides at home that we are actually doing what's expected.
Certainly are. Ryan Graydon's someone who's really caught my eye. He had a good patch of form last season, but you wouldn't say he was outstanding for the duration. This year, I do think he's showing the potential to go up another gear, because he's big, but he's also quick, and I think he's going to be difficult to defend against for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what was frustrating about last season was that me, in particular, was a big fan of him. He started the season off decent, scoring in the EFL Cup. And then he had a massive dry patch from about October to about January. And him and Ronan Coughlin actually started off well together. But then when Ronan Coughlin got injured in January, that's when I think Graydon had Louis Marsh with him, and also Owen Devonport. Had a lot of strikers next to him that were sort of young and weren't really sort of finding the feet as well in the league as Graydon has when he's come from Ireland. But it seemed like he wanted to take the onus, and he wanted to sort of like silence all the supporters that got frustrated about him. But I've always been a big fan, because he's been a good profile. He's quick, like you say. He can run the channels and hold it up decently, and his pacing behind. I think his 1v1 finishing is good, and obviously, like you say, that at least this season he's not having it in patches. Sort of, it seems like he's getting that consistency, and obviously, for strikers, that a lot of clubs maybe in the Championship might invest in the players that haven't got really the finished end product, but are a good profile. But I think Graydon's proving that he can add goals to a game, and he is a good profile.
Yeah, certainly is. One thing that I think might hold you back from a playoff push, because if you look at the other areas, you've got some really good attacking wing backs. You've got, I think, 4 or 5 capable strikers, including Graydon, who we've mentioned. Lynch was Player of the Year in 22-23, I think it was as well. I don't know if your centre halves are quite at the level. I think that's probably the one area of the squad that I would look at, especially, it's missing. And I've got a feeling you might have been in for 1 or 2 in the summer of maybe a slightly different profile. And I've said this about a few teams. I think you're missing that experienced, dominant centre half. James Bolton's actually done well for where he's come from in terms of converting from being a fullback, where he maybe can't get up and down like he used to be able to. But I still feel like you're missing something else there, perhaps.
Yeah, I didn't really rate James Bolton as many Fleetwood fans did last season. Obviously, like you say, that for a central centre half, you want someone to be more dominant. And but I think he's actually done very decent so far this season. Or maybe he hasn't come up against many target men to expose his height and lack of physicality. Who knows? But I think that he's coped well. Harrison Holgate, I think what's held him back is injuries. But when he's fit, he's a solid 7 out of 10. Obviously, we have currently Caden Hughes at left centre back, and Medley, when he's played, obviously probably played the majority of his football this season as a left wing back. But I think even when he's played left centre half, it was one of the most exciting players that I was wanting to watch this season for Fleetwood. But I don't think he's quite there yet, Medley. But I would agree with you. I think we have Finlay Potter back, but yeah, I do think we need that sort of leader, and also that guy who has a presence in the box. But But other than that, like you say, Jay Lynch is a comfortable keeper who's certainly grown on me since he was dragged in on Boxing Day last season and surprisingly got an assist that day too. But yeah, I think he's only got 2 clean sheets this season too. But I think he saved us so many times from games, not going to 2 or 3 goals down, which is obviously great. And obviously, if Lynch did get injured, we also have David Harrington, who's a more than capable keeper of filling in, and Stephen McMullen when he comes back from Watford.
Absolutely. Jack, just very quickly, because we're a little bit pushed for time, do you think Fleetwood are going to challenge for the top 7, and do you think you'll make the cut?
I hope so, because I think now we have the mentality of outscoring teams. Obviously, you mentioned midfielders. We've got Jordan Davis to come back from injury, who, I think he only played about 5 games for us, but I think him and Ethan Hennis were the players that I really liked. So, yeah, like I say, we've got attacking wing backs. We've currently showing that we can outscore teams. We've only lost 1 at home, which was obviously to Crewe, where they started the season like house on fire.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think if we just keep outscoring sides, and hopefully in the January transfer market, we do get a dominant centre half. Hopefully that makes us be probably more brave away from home and obviously keep more clean sheets to keep the pressure off Jay Lynch. But yeah, I think when everyone's fit, 'cause obviously we have Sean Rooney too, that can also bolster the wing back options, and like I said, Jordan Davis too, and we have the attacking options, which I probably only worried about grading going in January. I don't think there's any current players that I worry too much about. I think Elliot Bonds would probably be next summer if you had interest in him. But yeah, I definitely think that we can push for the top 7, because the proof's in the pudding that we're 11th and we're 6 points off the top, so anyone could be anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, thanks so much for your insight, Jack. Thanks to everyone for watching. This has been the EFL Debate League 2 podcast, and we'll see you again next week.